In this video, I'll walk you through how to set up and configure the Gemini API to document your codebase. We'll cover a range of programming languages, including Python, Java, JavaScript, C++, and Kotlin. By the end of this tutorial, you'll know how to efficiently generate detailed documentation for your entire project using advanced AI. This tutorial is designed to help developers and software teams who are working with large code bases across multiple programming languages. The Gemini 1.5 API allows you to automatically generate documentation, saving you time and effort while maintaining the quality and consistency of your project documentation. The tutorial will show how to organize and structure this documentation in a user-friendly way, helping developers better navigate their code. In this notebook, we'll follow a structured approach. First, we'll set up the environment and configure the Gemini API. Then we'll demonstrate how to read and process code files from your project. We'll generate detailed documentation using the API and organize it into well-structured Markdown files. Finally, I'll show you how to update your project's README to include links to the newly generated documentation. Let's begin by setting up the environment and configuring the Gemini 1.5 API. To do this, we need to import the required libraries and securely configure our API key. In this step, you'll see how to install the necessary packages and set up the environment to start generating documentation using the API. Remember to securely store your API key to prevent it from being exposed. If you're using a Google Colab, this step shows you how to mount your Google Drive to access your project files. If you're running this notebook on a local or cloud-based environment where your files are already accessible, you can skip this step. This flexibility allows you to adapt the tutorial to your own setup. Next, we'll read code files from the project directory. The notebook supports multiple programming languages, including Python, Java, JavaScript, C++, and Kotlin. We'll use file extensions to identify and load the relevant code files, allowing us to process them and generate documentation in the following steps. You'll see how to customize the directory path and extensions to fit your project. Now, let's generate the documentation. We'll use the Gemini 1.5 API to process each code file and generate detailed documentation for functions, classes, and other key components. You'll see how to pass the code and file name to the API, which will return a comprehensive explanation of the code along with any optimizations. This feature is especially useful for documenting large or complex code bases. Once the documentation is generated, it needs to be saved and organized. In this step, we'll organize the generated Markdown files into subdirectories based on the architecture of your project. Categories like core, utilities, and tests will help make the documentation easier to navigate, providing a logical structure that aligns with your codebase's organization. To wrap up, we'll update the project's README file. We'll automatically generate links to each piece of documentation and append them to the README in an organized manner. This allows other developers or team members to quickly access the documentation for each module or component, providing a clear and concise overview of the entire project. And that's it! You now have a fully documented codebase using the Gemini 1.5 API. This setup not only saves you time, but also ensures your documentation is detailed and well organized. If you have any questions, feel free to check out our other tutorials or leave a comment below. Thanks for watching and happy coding!